we are going to have a group of alien enemies as follows. On the sky, a square is represented by enemy class, same size, width, and height. And then we are going to display in two rows or multiple rows as follows. Each row has something like this. You have a size of the enemy, and then space is same as enemy size, and the like. So this is going to be number of columns we have in the enemy composite, and then rows we are going to have the same spacing vertically, size of the enemy and the spacing, and then we repeat another row of enemies. So this is going to be n columns. So that's the initial array layout of the group of enemies, and then those group of enemies will travel across the sky automatically each frame. So let's define under model enemy composite class representing group of enemies. Extends game element. Then let's define some constant. Before that, let's override methods, render and animate, and the enemy composite constructor there. So let's define some constant. Static final int n rows. We are going to have 2 rows and columns. Let's have 10 columns and rows there. Then let's define enemy size as 20 pixels each side, and as we animate unit at each frame, we want to move 5 pixels. Then everything is stored into an array list. And then each element in the array list is one row. So one row is array list. And then so overall we have array list of array list. Game element. So that's a composite. Let's call rows. Array list is from Java util. Then constructor, let's define an array of arrays like this. So rows is array list there. So that's of this type. And then let's have a loop. Rows are 0, are n rows. And then inner loop columns. So we have nested loop to generate this kind of enemies. So for each row, let's define one row. That is a array list of game element. So if I specify this is just a game element, because that's just one row, then we need to add enemy. So one row, add new enemy there. So X location, Y location, we need to compute that. So here, the first row, let's imagine, X location changes by column index, and the Y location remains the same. So X location is column-wise changes. So let's multiply column index, which is C, and enemy size, and by 2, so that Next one is another space apart. So this is index 0, index 1. So x-wise, you need to move twice the enemy size. And then row-wise, row index enemy size times twice. So you can have a space between rows as well. Then enemy is defined x, y, and then size. So let's double check. Enemy x, y size color field is there, right? So now size is enemy size, color yellow, true. That's a field one. So that's the enemy constructor parameters there. Then rendering is just render everything in array of array list. So let's do rows. Then for column, for each row, that's the nested loop. Then each component in the column, just to render to G. So this is actually game element. Game element is there. So this is one row at a time. In the row is another array list. Get each element and render that. So overall, to test that, when start button is clicked from game board, so like a shooter, let's have an instance member representing game enemy composite. Private enemy composite. Enemy composite. Let's define instance member. And then as a start button is clicked, enemy composite. Let's create enemy composite. And then to the canvas, get game elements. Let's add enemy composite there. Then that will be rendered. At this moment, composite animate is not implemented yet, so initial location is expected to be displayed. Run, start. Nothing shows up yet, so let's debug it in the next video.